Welcome back to the Not Carrie Bradshaw YouTube channel, where I'm recapping the first of the Real Housewives of Potomac reunion series. I don't even know how many we're going to get. I'm sure they're going to stretch it out to like maybe 3 or 4. I miss the good old days when it was like a 1 or 2. Or did I imagine that? I think it used to just be 1 or 2. I just feel like we don't need to rehash the season over a period of like 4 weeks. But you know what? I'm gonna be here with y'all regardless. We gonna get through it regardless. So let's dive right in. As per usual, it's a reunion, so it's gonna be more of the same. We did get a little bit of new mess, but before we go to the new mess, let's get a little housekeeping out of the way. Candiace's wig. Candiace's wig gave me, I'm just gonna bump the ends. You know, when you were a little girl, you were coming of age and your mom would let you wear your hair down and you really wanted, you know, the rap kind of vibe where it was a, you know, that sound effect. You didn't want a hard curl. You just wanted a, you know, and they would tell you, I'm just gonna bump the ends, and you came out with a hard Lord Farquaad, like, right here. That's what Candiace was giving. It made me think about Jada Pinkett, her wig in The Nutty Professor. It really made me think about Lord Farquaad. Like I said, it wasn't giving. The color was nice. It had a lot of nice bounce to it, but that hard curl, they could have kept that. And then when Andy walked in her room and was like, oh, I like your hair. Did he really? Because I realize sometimes white people don't really be knowing what black people's hair is supposed to look like. So I want to know, like, did he mean that sincerely, or did he see it and immediately think, oh, and just had to say something about her hair? I don't know. So Candiace's wig, just no to the whole thing. Darby's Barbie, I don't like that. I don't like that. That's so weird. Something about that is just so weird. Okay, girl, I guess. Why do you want it? You know what? Maybe Ashley takes a lot of pride in being a trophy wife. Maybe I'm just not there. And she's okay with, I don't like it. Let's move on. Did you guys really like anyone's look, like overall? I will say I thought that the hot pink, like fuchsia color looked beautiful on Karen. I thought Ascala looked really nice, but I didn't feel like anyone's look was just like overwhelmingly lovely. I wasn't like moved by anyone's look in particular. Wendy's look was overwhelming for me because you have this big poof of embellishment here, and then there was also the hair right here. And I have this thing about, if you have a heavily embellished neckline, don't give me curly hair too, because I feel like it's competing, unless you're trying to give like that romantic kind of, you know, kind of look. But that's a very specific kind of aesthetic. So I'm funny about, you got a big ass thing right here, and then you got some curls right here too. That was a bit overwhelming for me. They started things off with Mia. I gave Wendy too much grace this season. This reunion, Wendy so far has been really nasty. And the level of hostility that she's interjecting on everyone's section, she just has really nasty things to say about everybody. And I'm just like, this was her in the beginning of the season. And I was like, all right, Wendy. And it felt like as the season progressed, that she was okay. And then now we're at this reunion and it's giving insecure, it's giving mean girl, it's giving where is this coming from? And I don't like it. There was a lot of hypocrisy this episode, as there is every episode, but we're talking about today. I did not appreciate that they were grilling Mia once again about having vaginal rejuvenation surgery and the slut shaming. Number one, they have a very patriarchal view of a vagina, okay? If a vagina is elastic enough to birth a baby and to close back, Do you honestly think that a human male penis is going to just like wreck a vagina to that extent? She got vaginal rejuvenation because she wanted to. And this whole thing of like, what kind of sex y'all having? And then Wendy to say, well, you only do missionary, so he can't be doing too much. You telling on yourself and you telling on Eddie. Okay? Just because y'all don't know how to enjoy missionary don't mean other people don't know how to enjoy missionary. Okay? Now, I'm not going to get too deep with y'all about that, but you're telling on yourself, Wendy. Keep it cute. And, you know, Andy tried to say, oh, so is it like a mommy makeover kind of thing? And Wendy didn't want it to be associated with her mommy makeover. You spent the whole season with people body shaming you about the work that you got done, and you're body shaming Mia for the work that she got done because you don't feel like she needed it, or you don't feel like it's appropriate, or you don't understand it, or whatever. Decide what kind of woman you want to be, because you can't say that you believe in empowering and supporting women up until the point where you just don't agree with who they are. If you're going to do that, you have to do that all the way through. Now, I don't know if Wendy calls herself a feminist, but as a feminist myself, that means that you support the right, you support all women's right to choose the kind of life that they want to have, so long as they're not hurting anybody else or themselves. So you may not be a sex worker, have never been a sex worker in your life, whatever. You still need to be in support of women who are sex workers being able to be safe and paid and not abused or whatever. You don't get to say, I support women and women need to stick up for each other until it's a woman that makes you feel threatened. And for some reason, Wendy seems to be so threatened by Mia. And that's where all of her women's empowerment and her love and support for other women just goes out the window. That's a serious problem that I see across industries, that I see like even on social media. You support and you love women, or you support and you love Black women up until you feel threatened by one. And it's hire Black women and protect Black women up until it's a Black woman who makes you feel threatened. But that's a conversation for another day. I was really not enjoying Wendy this episode at all. We moved on to Gizelle. Andy did a really good job this episode with this reunion. I was really happy with the way he didn't really let up. He really asked Gizelle the tough questions about the relationship with Jamal, where it's like, okay, what's the timeline here? When did you know that he cheated again? And Gizelle is like, well, I knew about it before Monique brought it up with the binder last year. Okay, so how did you process that? Did you cry? Did you whatever? And Gizelle just refuses to give any amount of vulnerability. What really struck me as sad, and this isn't a judgment on Gizelle, it's a, oh my God, I feel for you, that you really aren't allowing yourself to feel anything. Like, you seem to take ownership of how the other person inflicts pain on you in a way. When she said, you know, when you're younger and a person does something to hurt you and they do it again, it doesn't hurt as much the first time, and it's the second time. And it's like, where they do that at? Who is that true for? So you're saying, it's almost like Gizelle was kind of saying like she knows how to like take an emotional beating, and that she had to be robotic out of survival for her girls. And it's like, I can understand that, but how long are you going to live in survival mode before you take that emotional burden off your shoulders? Now, one of my friends feels that the Gizelle and Jamal storyline was never real. They were never really back in a relationship. He just helped her out to give her a storyline for that season. Okay. However, those girls didn't lie about their mom being emotionally unavailable. So it's entirely possible that she probably really didn't have any feelings about Jamal's behavior because that relationship wasn't real for the season. But the fact still remains, Gizelle refuses to be a vulnerable person. And Robin is like, just because she doesn't process things the way you guys do, or the way that you guys want people to, you know, blah, blah, blah. Well, two things. Number one, had a convo with my good friend earlier today. That was so hypocritical, because they wanted Monique to break down and cry and to be super emotional about the situation or the fight between her and Candiace. And because Monique said, that's just not how I process things. I don't, I'm not a crier like that. I don't process things the way you guys want me to process things. They couldn't receive that from Monique. But now that same rhetoric is being used to defend Gizelle's lack of vulnerability on this show. And once again, it just feels like the ghost of Monique just haunts this season, because so much of what was said to and about her, she's just been vindicated through. And my question is, if even your girls don't see you as a vulnerable person or see you as an emotional vampire, which I don't know if that's what they meant to say there, or maybe it is. Well, if they see you as an emotional robot, which is how she refers to herself, then where are you being vulnerable? Where are you processing things? Where do you put it? Because it all has to go somewhere. That pain, that humiliation, that shame, it has to go somewhere. And the fact that Gizelle, I don't know if she's lying or if she really thinks in her mind that she discusses her relationships openly and honestly with everyone in the group. You really don't. You don't let people in at all. And they are making a valid point when they say that she deflects. She really does. She does not want the spotlight to be put on her. And I have to give it to Wendy when she said, if the spotlight were put on Gizelle with regard to her romantic relationships and she really had to own her real feelings in those situations, she would probably crumble. And I can understand not wanting to do that on national TV, but Gizelle has no problem doing that to other people. Now, I do think that Wendy is taking a bit too much joy in the discussions around Jamal's infidelity. Like, don't celebrate in the difficulties of others. That just never looks good. But I was really happy that Andy really pressed Gizelle about, okay, but how did that make you feel? Were you not hurt? Well, did you cry? Like, he could not crack that hard shell. And at this point in this show's life, this is what, season 6? When are you going to be more vulnerable? Karen made such a good point that if she got to a place where she could feel safe and open or whatever, and she actually told her story, she would, number one, feel relieved, but it would also probably help a lot of other people if she could be a little, just give something. But she just never does. Like, I remember they had a girls' night and each person was, telling something really personal about themselves. And she told this story about how she got diarrhea at this guy's house. Gizelle has such a hard exterior that it's just like, when you date men, are they able to pierce that exterior? I don't know. Anyway, the other thing too, she was so defensive about the taxes thing. So it came out that Jamal owes, I think, like $750,000 in back taxes. And she's just, that don't have nothing to do with me. That don't have nothing to do with me. And Karen and Andy are like, well, it does, because in some way it's going to, at minimum, impact your daughters because that is their father. And she just, nope, my girls are good. We don't have, and it's like, okay, girl, well, why are you here then? Why are you here? Ugh. Anyway. So in Candiace's life, I know 2 people are stressed out. Her husband, number 1, we talked about that, okay? Chris got to be stressed out every minute of his life. Number 2, her makeup artist. I know that makeup artist be so stressed out, especially at those reunions, wondering how he gonna keep her under-eye concealer in place when she's constantly crying. Constantly crying. Of her own actions. Like, these are things that you brought upon yourself, but you were constantly just, why are you crying all the time? When you're the one who inflicts pain on everyone. Ooh, shit. So I really, again, was happy with Andy's performance as the host of this reunion, because Andy really held Candiace's feet to the fire. When he asked her, like, how is the way that you talk to people, how's that actually working out for you, though? Like, he really got with Candiace at every retort, and I really appreciated that he did that. What I don't like is this idea of, like, rat-a-tat-tat Candiace. Candiace is not a big bad bitch like y'all think that Candiace is. Candiace can't take shit, as evidenced by last season. So I was even confused when Wendy was saying, like, oh, Mia hasn't seen rat-a-tat-tat Candiace, as if that's something to be afraid of. It's nothing to be afraid of. Girl, bye. I was really happy that Gizelle told Candiace, like, you did see that your mom was the one who was literally going around talking to all of us about your marriage, asking all of us questions, and then you were upset with us, which then triggers Candiace to cry because she had to watch her mom talk about her husband, and her in-laws had to watch that. And now when she goes around that family, she feels like she doesn't belong because her mom said these bad things about her husband. We've been trying to tell you for a long time that your mama is a very cruel person. I guess now you believe it, and now the steps that you can take are to establish some sort of boundaries with your mom for once in your life. Very challenging thing to do. The first step is to start. They get into the conversation about the video being low budget again, and Mia was saying that if we're showing up to something, at least have someone greet us. And Candiace is like, well, we're not going to pander to the extras. And it's like, you have such an elitist view of everything. It doesn't matter. The fact that these are your friends and that they came to do you a favor is all the more reason why you should make sure that they are tended to. Just because they're extras, and moreover, extras who are doing you a favor, who lent you their cars, like, the video was low budget. And your behavior and your justifications after the fact are even more low budget. So they start talking about the argument between Candiace and Mia. And Candiace says so many things that were confusing. One of them was that she says in the Black community it's called joning, and you should have been grateful. And I was really happy that Andy was like, she should be grateful that you said your mama. Joning, don't try to weaponize Black culture to your advantage to try to defend your poor behavior. That's not what joning is. And don't nobody really tell your mama jokes no more anyway. And to say what exactly should Mia have been grateful for, Candiace? Did you mean to say that in retrospect? Like, what should Mia have been grateful for from you, that you went easy on her? The delusion. I'm happy that Andy and everyone pointed out to her, in all of these situations, you're the common denominator. Candiace has it in her mind that people respond to her physically or whatever because she's better at verbally defending herself. Candiace, you're not as good at it as you think. Your defenses this whole time have been sex shaming, slut shaming, body shaming. Your wide ass, your wide forehead, your big forehead, your big hands, your big feet. You think that that's good? You think that that's giving? You think that that's reading? Because that's not really that's nothing. I guess maybe you're saying that you were going easy on them, that you were going easy on Mia because you only did those things. I think you were only saying those things because you couldn't think of shit else to say, because you were in the wrong and you were overreacting. You're not as good at orating as you think you are. And I keep going back to Andy being like, orating? Like, is that really what you thought that you were doing? It's not giving what you think is giving. You're not as smart as you think you are. Not at this. Very ill-equipped when it comes to this. And the other thing on top of that too is you're not good at this because you can't actually take it. You can't take a verbal response, and you definitely can't take a physical response. If you were good at reading, you would be able to go tit for tat, tit for tat, tit for tat. Somebody says something, you come right back at them. You're quick on your feet. You have to be smart. You have to be personable. You have to have actually lived in the world to be quick enough on your feet to give people a retort when they're coming at you back and forth. But people say a certain thing to you and then you get physical. You want to wave butter knives in people's faces. To say they're mad because they're not as good at verbalizing as I am, that's just a falsehood because you're just not good at it. You can't take it back. You can barely give it, and you certainly can't take it when somebody put hands on your ass. And I was really happy that Gizelle said, if Mia had clocked you for your behavior, I wouldn't have been able to say anything. And that's absolutely right. And I was real surprised when Andy said, well, why do I have people saying you guys need to fire her? She couldn't take that either. It was, well, people say that about this person and this person. Okay, well, we talking about you. at some point consider that it might be you. It's the narcissism for me. So that's the reunion round one. We'll see what the rest of the reunion gives. If this is going to be Wendy the whole season, the whole rest of the reunion, I'm giving a hard pass on Wendy. It's a no for me. She's being real nasty, and I don't get it, and I don't like it, and I don't understand why Mia doesn't stand up for herself. When Wendy said, "Are you talking? Shut up," that was just so ugly. That was so ugly for an adult woman to say to another adult woman, just like, for no real reason. Like, why was that warranted? And Mia just is like, no, stand up for yourself. Why are you letting people talk to you like that? That's triggering for me. So anywho, that wraps up the reunion part 1 of Real Housewives of Potomac. Come back and see me next week. We'll go through part 2 and part 16 and whatever else. We are in it for the long haul. We're going to wrap this one up. So I will see you guys next week. Thank you for joining me. Be sure to check out my other videos. I'm currently recapping the current episode of Insecure, and I will talk to you guys soon. Bye.